Tropical Nomad. Every Monday, 7 p.m. You can come and join the audience. It's okay. You can do that. 7 p.m. every Monday. Now we have an incredible guest tonight, Brother Brian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone. This is interesting having a live audience. It's kind of new for me.
Yeah, you know, the interesting part is that so we don't know each other. We just met about half an hour ago, right? And it was Aaron. If you're watching this, thank you for the hookup, the connection. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But this is what we do. It's two people, two spirits getting to know one another with other people watching. That's the essence of it, right?
Love it.
And for those of you watching, so this is the Destination Indonesia series. So it's about, you know, people which are from Indonesia and those people that decide to call Indonesia home for whichever period of time that is, right? It's very pro-Indonesia. I make no apologies there because we love it and we want to show other people how good it is. So without further ado, let's get on to the questions. So nothing scripted, by the way. We just make the questions up. They drop in and I listen and the questions come and we go from there. So first question that drops in is, when it comes to breath work, right? So a while ago when I attempted breath work for the first time, I realized something really important, right? And that was, you know, that breath is life. Right? Breath is life. So when I say that to you, like breath is life, like what comes up in your mind or in your body when I say breath is life?
Let me tune into that one before I respond. So here's the thing about breath. It's like the first thing that we do when we're born. What do? Big in breath, right? The last thing that we do when we die, it's always on the exhale. And then we take billions of breaths in between, 25,000 per day. And the thing is like you take the average person, 90% of people don't breathe healthy. And it has massive implications on just the lives that they live. And we breathe all these 25,000 breaths every day, but most people go their whole life without thinking anything of it, right? And so my mission is just to be a missionary of the breath, to help people to understand that the more we can pay attention and the more that we can manipulate our breath to consciously control it, to sustain our life and provide us with the maximum health and the most amount of raw power, then that is a direction that I'm inspired to take people on that journey, for sure, hands down.
And I love the raw power, right? That word just gels with me, right? Raw power and breath. So when you say raw power, what would you mean by that?
Okay, so here's a question. So like when you have low energy in your life, and I can ask this to the audience, like you have low energy, what do you do? What's your go-to thing to do to give you more energy? Sleeping? Cool. Go to the gym? Cool. Drink a triple espresso? Yeah? All right. So all these, we would call these nervous system modulators, right? So you might drink a glass of wine, you might have a double cappuccino, you might go to the gym. You have all these things. We have all these default things. Gym is healthy. A lot of nervous system modulators are not healthy at all. You drink 8 cups of coffee a day, you're going to feel that shit sooner or later. You can use a breathwork practice. I could show you a breathwork practice. It could take less than a minute and it can fill you up with energy to make you feel superhuman. And it takes a minute and your health is getting better because of it. And it has no long-term detrimental effects. It's life affirming. I think if more people knew about that, then our options would become far greater, that we can control our energy levels as opposed to being okay being in a state of low energy, right? Being in a state of low energy is just a state of being, right? We're constantly going in and out of states of being all day. We're up, we're down, we're happy, we're focused, we're not focused. These are just all states. Breathwork gives us the ability to manipulate whatever state we're in, to shift it from wherever it is that's uncomfortable and not giving us the energy and the focus and the concentration and the clarity and everything else, to where it is we want to go, to be able to bring our best self and to create whatever it is that we want to create in that moment. We can control that shift of state. The breath gives us the power to make that shift.
Got it. And so I'm going to get you to move a bit closer to me so you're in shot. There you go, getting nice and comfortable. So okay, put you on the spot, which is not because I know you're natural. So you're saying that 1 minute is all it takes. Could you show us now, while sitting down, right? What breath could we do to bring back a bit of energy?
You guys want to do some? Yes. Yeah? Okay. All right, so this is a pretty easy one. What you're going to do is, obviously not everybody's going to lay down. You're just going to sit up in your chair, but make sure your back's supported if you have back support. And we're just going to take 25 deep breaths through our mouth into our belly. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Most of the time, 99% of time of your waking state and your sleeping state, you only want to be breathing through the nose. There's so many incredible health benefits from breathing through the nose, but when we breathe through the mouth for this practice, it just allows us to take more oxygen in and create a state change faster. So we're only going to be doing that for this practice. So we're just going to go 25 deep breaths into our belly, and it's going to be like all the work, the yang energy is the inhale, down here, and then the exhale is just a release. Just like that. Everybody try one time. All right, you guys ready? We're gonna do 25. I'm gonna breathe a little bit and count a little bit, and it's gonna be about this pace. Everybody got it?
And try this at home, guys. If you're watching this on either YouTube, Facebook, Instagram Live, try this at home. Why not? You've got nothing else better to do. Do it.
And if you're at home and you feel dizzy or you feel lightheaded, just slow it down, come out. If you're pregnant and you're at home and you're watching this, go really slow. We have a story I can share you later about what can happen if you're pregnant and you do too much fast breathing. You can actually induce labor too quickly. So don't do that. And then if you have asthma or anything like that, these are the contraindications just in case people are at home. You got to safety first. If you're in good health and none of those things apply, then you can do this practice and you don't have to worry about it. Cool? Slow down if you need to. Stop if you feel dizzy or too lightheaded. Cool? Just give me a thumbs up out there. Good? All right, cool. On my count, in 3, 2, 1, and breathe. Keep breathing. 10. 5 more. And on the 5th one, we're going to big inhale and we're going to hold at the top. 3, 2, big inhale, one more. Hold, close your eyes. Concentrate the energy on the top of your head. And feel whatever sensations are just coursing through your body in this moment. Just moving from your head into your body. Feeling that natural flow of energy moving through you, feeling at peace, feeling very still, feeling very present. And then taking your time. Breathing. Relax your shoulders, relax your face. Return to normal respiration. And enjoy the high. Less than 1 minute.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother. Thank you. So now if anyone here or at home watching this, if they're feeling a little bit off their game, because one of the things that we spoke about really briefly earlier on was that, before maybe you're drinking more cups of coffee and now you don't need it. Now it's probably more of enjoyment as opposed to necessity, right? So then through doing a practice like that is how you tend to refuel and bring your energy back up again. Is that the case?
That would be 20% of the case.
Got it.
Right? So what breathwork allows us to do is it allows us to, if we're down, we can come up. If we're up, we can come down. You don't want to be wired and tired when you're trying to go to bed. You want to be sleepy. You want to induce a sleep state. So there's breathwork practices that can induce a sleep state. So what breathwork does is it gives the ability to control your stress response, control your mood, control your sleep, control your digestion, control your focus, control your concentration. There's literally a breathwork practice that can help you in any situation in life to modulate and shift into whatever direction you want to go. So if you have trouble digesting food and you have trouble sleeping, there's a breathwork technique. You can do it laying in bed, and you can go from being an insomniac to sleeping in 10 minutes for most people. You know, so it's just one of those things. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your life so that you decide how you feel in every moment. And then you're not just a victim to your external inputs that could be filling you up with all sorts of stress, all sorts of anxiety. 48% of entrepreneurs struggle with chronic stress and anxiety. And they feel numb when they need to be able to create. 48% report that in the U.S. statistics. And that's crazy.
You know what I love about what you said, apart from all of it, is to put yourself back in the driver's seat of your life, right? To put yourself back in the driver's seat of your life. So I do a bit of coaching with people. I call it Speak Your Purpose. So it's about how you connect with that purpose within you and speak from there, as opposed to, for people who are maybe scared of speaking in public, as opposed to, you know, learning the tricks and tips of how to surfacely deal with large numbers of people. What I teach is how you connect to your spirit and your soul. When you connect with that through your voice, you don't have to worry about the external. Everything takes care of itself. And what I love about that is that what I said before about breath is life, it wasn't a loaded question, but it kind of was, but things are coming in now of, you know, that's such an incredible way to do it, by controlling your breath, right? And calling forward. It's almost like there was this film called Minority Report, Tom Cruise, many years ago. People probably wondering what's the connection? The connection's this. So it was like, you know, he had this multifaceted screen in midair that he would pull down anything that he needed into this menu. And I see now breathwork is like that. So basically, whatever state that you're in, whatever you need, there's a breathwork practice for it that you can just pull down into the menu of what you need to do now. Exactly. Whether it's I want to sleep, I want to face my fear of public speaking, or snakes, or spiders, or other people, or socializing, or whatever it might be. So I'm getting just these different downloads coming. I love it. Thank you. So a question that comes up, right, is that I find that people which do what you do what we do actually, you know, there's a root of loving people and really wanting people to fulfill their potential. Right? And so you're a giver, right? A facilitator, a giver. These are the words that come in. So if I ask you now, so what experience that comes up for you in your life started to begin to lead you on this road of being a giver consciously?
Oh gosh. I can drop F-bombs in here?
Do it.
That's a great fucking question. Sorry if I offended anyone in the room. That's a really good question. So what comes to mind, what comes to heart, is there was a time when I had lost my business, and it was in the mortgage crash of 2008. And it was a really hard fall. I got bitch slapped by the cosmos along with a lot of other people. I lost everything. And in hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But after that went down, and I had this fresh perspective on life, it forced me to reevaluate how I define success in my life. Because prior to that, it was based on monetary and what I can accumulate. You know, how many houses in my real estate portfolio, and the Mercedes-Benz that I was driving and everything else, and all that just came crashing down. And during this period, after about a year, there was something that happened where I found myself in a pretty tough spot, because I was bouncing around the entrepreneurial path trying to figure out what I was going to do to piece myself back together. And I was 4 months late on my rent and living in San Diego. And I had a guy who I was working with that wasn't paying me, so I wasn't able to pay my rent. I had my girl and her son that was living with me. I didn't have a job, like a real one that was paying. And I didn't have a car at the time, because I had to turn my car back in because I had lost it, right? And I was just in my faith that everything was going to be okay, but also scared shitless that I was the provider for dependents that needed me. And I didn't tell my girl what was happening. I knew that I was going to be able to figure out a way to bring it all back. And I read a book called 29 Gifts. And it's a really good book. It was by a woman named Cammie Walker. And her story is that she was She was in Hawaii on her wedding day and she fainted. Long story short, she got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And this is her story about how she was just going in a downward spiral in her life. Her business was going south. Her relationship was going south. All her money was drying up. And she met, through a friend, a shaman that lived in Hawaii. And she spent her last money to go out and see this shaman to try to figure out if she had some cure, some potion to heal her illness. And this shaman sits down with her and she says, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go home and you're going to give a gift every day to someone for the next 29 days. And then you're going to come back to Hawaii and you're going to tell me how it goes. And this woman was like, son of a bitch. You know, she was expecting healing, you know, she was expecting some like magic pill that was going to take her pain away and end her suffering. And so she went home with no more cash, steaming about the whole thing, right? And she sits with it and she said, okay, there must be a reason for this. And I have nothing left. I have nothing to lose. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to do this thing. And so she starts this process every day, giving a gift. Going through this process, 29 days. And this book is about that journey. And so by the end of this 29 days, this woman, all her multiple sclerosis symptoms, everything gone in remission. Whoa. And her life completely transformed. Because what happened? She went from focusing only on her pain and her suffering to focusing her energy on what value that she could give to the people in her life, people that she knew and strangers, and she healed herself. And so this book was about challenging people to take the same journey, essentially. And it created a bit of a movement. And when I read this book, I was fucked. I was like, oh shit, I got nothing left to lose. You know what I mean? So I had a good head on my shoulders. I knew I had faith in my creator. I had faith in God. I had faith in the universe that things were going to be all right. So I held that energy, but I was getting to that end where I didn't know how I was going to go down. I didn't know if I was going to have to move back in with my folks and tell my girl, I'm sorry, the best of luck, but I couldn't figure this shit out. So what I started giving. And I started by writing anonymous gratitude letters to my neighbors and like putting it in their mailbox. I had to pick stuff that didn't require a lot of cash because I was next to nothing. And I was finding very creative ways to give. And I kid you not, some of the craziest stories happened over the course of that 29 days that we don't have enough time to get into all of them, but I'll tell you what, at the end of that 29 days, I had a job, I had a car, and I had all the money to save myself from the rent situation, all manifested through this 29 days of giving. And it blew me a fucking way, man. It blew me away because it completely shifted my mindset. After I came out of that, it's like I realized the secret to living is giving. Yeah, and if we can use our energy to stop being so self-absorbed in our human problems in our life and actually make a choice to make a difference in the lives of others, it changes everything. And that was the beginning of Brian Kelly 2.0.
What a story, man. So many parallels come in, you know. And I had one car taken away, repossessed as well. That's a long story. And the heart and soul of the Speak Your Purpose is actually that, right? It's the fact that people are worried about how they look and how they sound and whether they're talking long enough, short enough, and all this other stuff, but ultimately it's focused on them. The minute they realize, and there's a guy, Tarush, we were talking about this recently, and the key is this: it's when you get stuck or when you get lost, it's usually because you're thinking about yourself. Yeah. The minute you tune into what is my message, that then reorientates everything. And whatever fear, blah, 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 it drops away because you realize it's not about me, actually. Yeah. It's about the message that I'm sharing with others. And when you do that, then that's what I mean. Everything that you're supposed to do just comes naturally without you having to practice, without you having to schedule and all those things, right? So that's really amazing. And I really connect with that. That's phenomenal. And but I'm pretty sure I'm not alone. who wants to hear one of the 29 things that happened to him? Right? Of course we do, right? So yeah, whichever one comes to mind, or whichever ones come to mind of what happened. Yeah.
So it actually didn't take the full 29 days to like if I were to tell you about how the job and the car and the money came in, it wouldn't sound that miraculous, because it's just like, for example, like my buddy's girlfriend's truck got broken into in the driveway, and so they didn't want it to be there anymore because it was a risk. So they knew I didn't have a car, so they just called me up and they said, "Hey, we know you don't have a car. Like, you want to just use this one for a little while." And I had to really, I was an entrepreneur. I made some good money during this time, and I had some success, and I had to really put my tail between my legs and get humble during this, very humbled. But I look back at best thing by far that's ever happened to me in my life was losing all that shit, because it put me in this chair today. Yeah. And then the job and all these things it's just that came in the middle somewhere. I had all that stuff sorted by the middle. And so I think it was around the 23rd or the 24th day, I had this new job. I got hired into a corporate America, my only job ever in corporate America, for a year out of necessity. And it was that was actually kind of a miracle how that happened, because they hired me as a sales manager, and they've never hired anybody outside as a sales manager before. They always recruited from within. So I had to go through like 6 interviews to get this job and really turn on the charm. Like, I'm an entrepreneur, this isn't going to work out in the long run. But I took it out of necessity, and based on corporate America job standards, it was actually a pretty good job. And so I'm driving around. I was a sales manager for a home security company. And I was driving around this day, and I was thinking, because when I did this challenge, the giving part of my day was the highlight of my day. Because you really have to sit and think, what am I going to fucking give to somebody today? It's like, you had to plan that out. You had to kind of know, or else you get to the end of the night, and it's like, I didn't do anything. I got to like message some old friend that I love them and I miss them, because that's a gift, and it can be challenging depending on the person, right? Like, putting past bad relationships, like healing that stuff, right? But the one that really sticks out was, I was driving around in North San Diego, and a radio commercial came on. I listened to this one radio station, driving around listening to music pretty much all day. And the radio commercial came on, and I'd listened to this radio station a lot, and I'd never heard this commercial before. And it was for a blood bank. It was for the Red Cross blood donation. I was like, that's a fucking good gift. I was like, I'm gonna go give some blood today. Save a life maybe with my blood, if it's not too dirty from the life that I've lived. And so I had this idea, right? And then I was like, cool. It was like, that was the trigger. I'm gonna do that. And I go on my phone and I'm looking, where's the closest blood bank? And it was like an hour drive away, and it was like the first week of my job. So I had this job, but I hadn't gotten paid yet. So I had very little cash even to like fill up my gas tank. And I was like, oh shit, okay, how am I gonna do this? And as I was thinking about it, same freaking commercial comes on the second time within 10 minutes. And I'm like, okay, universe, like I gotta figure it out. I gotta go get blood. And then of course, 10 more minutes go by, and I come back to the same thought. I'm like, no, it's an hour away. Like, it's super inconvenient. I can't do it. I was like, I'll schedule blood giving like next week or something like that. The universe will forgive me. I'll find something else out that's more convenient. And so I didn't really think anything of it, and I went home that day, and I lived very close to this really epic library in Encinitas, California. It had like 180-degree view of the ocean. This was like my office when I was near my house, right? And so I was like, all right, there's a couple hours left in the day, and I wouldn't typically go to the library at this time. It would usually be a day off or in the morning. So I drive to the library, and I drive into the parking lot, and I shit you not, what I saw made me cry instantly. It was a fucking blood truck parked, taking up 3 spots in the front of the library that had never been there before. Literally. And I just lost it. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Tears rolling down my face. I'm like, oh my God, the universe, God is so real. It was like, that was like my come to Jesus moment. Like someone's watching this moment, and that blood is going to save someone's life. I guarantee it. Because there's no way that the universe would put all the stars together like that. And so, of course, I walked in, I huge smile, you know, I like put my name on the list. I went into the truck. I told all the women there this story. Everyone's crying, you know, and that's one of those kind of moments where you know that no matter what goes down, everything's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right, and it just changes you, man. And then I had like 6 or 7 more days of giving after that, but that was enough. I could have stopped there, but you know, I made a covenant to do 29 days, so I stuck with the 29 days.
That's a great story, man, and something that we can all use, we can all do, we can all try, and I'm sure people watching either here or watching from there or wherever you're watching from will resonate with that, right? Because nothing happens by chance, right? So one of the other things I want to pick up on real quick was, so you have an office, right, now, and is it overlooking ocean?
It is. Yeah,
so
different ocean,
but
same view,
different ocean, right? Just wanted to bring that one up. It just dropped into my head, cracked me up, man. The other one that came in. All right, so you said, you know, and I'm not going to let this one go, right? And you know what I'm going to say, right? So you said that you didn't, you know, your life before, there were some things going on, right? I think you said, you know, some of the bad things I was doing before. Got to ask you to share some of those moments, man.
Oh, God. Of course. Of that entire story I just shared, that's what you latch onto? Oh, I just got myself into trouble.
I got that, but I want to know about that.
You know, let's just put it this way, man. I'm happy to be alive. Start there. I went through the classic experimental phase of my life. You know, I was a yes man. If there was stuff around and there was things to do, you know, it's like I was wanting to experience life to the fullest, and that meant a lot of drugs, you know, a lot of this and a lot of that, and just like not letting it ruin my life. I was one of those very lucky substance users, but not abusers, that could try a little bit of everything and not let it take control so bad that it messed me up over the long run. And I'm thankful to the Lord for that. So when it was time to kind of move on and maybe grow up a little bit, it was pretty easy to make that shift and transition. But there was 4 or 5 college years that, I mean, I grew up, that was when the rave scene was big, right? So a lot of, you know, okay, so I guess the positive side of this story, like my go-to drug of choice was MDMA, because it makes you love everyone so fucking deeply, you know? So of all the things that I did, none of it was really all that worth it except that drug. And of course, plant medicine's more recent. I had a very deep experience doing MDMA with Anna, and that deepened our bond. And so, you know, it's interesting. You call it a drug, but before it was a drug, it was used for psychotherapy with couples, you know? And so I feel like I latched onto that one because it instead of making a negative impact on my life, it made a positive one. It showed me how quickly and easily you could fall in love with another human being. Because, yeah, you're in that state, you're in an altered state, but the ability to fall in love with a human being that quickly is real. You know, so there's the positive spin on your loaded question.
Hey, remember, it's not me asking the questions, man. They just come in and I ask them, you know. But like, what I'm loving about you already, man. Remember, guy, we just met, right? Like half an hour before this, we just met. So just remind you of that. But like, you know, what I'm loving about you and your story is that, you know, like it's real, right? And it's relatable in the sense that there are people who are watching now who have been through some of those experiences that you're talking about, and maybe they find themselves lost, or maybe they find themselves, you know, at a place which is like, I'm not really looking forward till tomorrow, right? I don't look at tomorrow with this energy of like, wow, what can I create? What is the possibility of tomorrow? It's like, oh shit, another day. You know, like, is that going to be the day where I decide to end it? You know, because a lot of people, I was in clubs for 20-something years at a really high level, but I helped. I was part of the solution for a lot of different people. And as we discussed, one of the things we discussed earlier on is those people that come and you never know who they are. But once in a while, you get those people who come up and say, you know what? The thing that you said then, or the thing that you did then, that saved my life. Or that was the start of the change that chain reaction that helped me to find that quality and that sense of power, strength, and honesty within me, man. And that's why I love you, brother. That is cool. As well.
Love you too.
Far out, man. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So, so where did all this start? So like, what was your life like growing up? And you know what I'm going to say next, like 1 to 7, like what was your life like growing up? For those of you watching, while I give them time to think about that, 1 to 7 is this theta brainwave state that we grow up in, very impressionable. The people around us, we mimic and we take on board what they believe, feel, sense, are aware of. They're the way that they see the world. This comes part of our story, and quite often that is how our story ends.
Yeah.
Subconsciously we take on that, and an RAS is part of our brain that sifts and sorts and finds those experiences which match up with the beliefs that we already have instilled or programmed, is how we continue the rest of our life without even realizing that that's where we're going, right? So 1 to 7, those early years, what were they like for you?
It's a good question. So I was one of those very blessed beings and children. In my family, I was the only son, nephew, and grandson for 7 years. And then my brother fucked it all up for me. And from a very loving family, I'm a product of 2 hippies that came together when they were 18 and 24 years old. So they had that flowery kind of love everyone and love everything energy about them, very supportive. And they just showered that at me throughout my entire, they were going through a challenging time. I found out about this later. Like, I remember standing in line at welfare, like for free cheese, that was a thing. And I didn't know that we were hard up on cash, because there was so much love in our family. And so because I was the only one, I just got showered with that energy from everybody in the family. And I just thought that's how life was. Yeah. So it took me a while to come into realizing that, wow, that's actually a really blessed way of being raised. And it's also a very rare story. So I don't take it for granted at all, because the energy that you might see coming through me as I share these stories, it's very much attributed to my parents and the parenting they had, and my family, the tightness and the love that was just permeating through my family and throughout all my early years in life, man.
And we've got 2 more questions in this area, and then we'll move on, guys. Grandparents. Did you have much connection with them? And do you notice the dynamic between your parents and their parents? So your parents and your grandparents, what was the dynamic there?
Similar. Yeah. Like, I had a tight relationship with all my grandparents. They were all very loving as well. And I feel like both of my parents were raised by good parents. Yeah. Challenging environments, like life is challenging. There's stuff that happens in every family unit that it's like, wow, we made it through that for sure. That I'm not exempt from that. Neither are my parents. But I feel like because they were raised very, very well with a lot of love, they passed that on to my parents and then passed it on to me, and now I get to pass it on to my children.
Love it. And then last question, and we'll move on to the business side. So you mentioned God a couple of times, right? 3 times probably. So when I say to you God, what comes up for you?
God is the connective energy of all of life. I believe that we are all just so deeply intrinsically connected, no matter what God we worship or what we believe, that when everything is finally revealed at some future moment, that we're all going to realize that the beliefs that we carry in our heads are far lesser than the connection that we have with each other in our hearts. And so I believe that the Creator, I believe that God is the energy that permeates all things. It's omniscient, it's omnipresent, and it's everywhere in all things. And I feel like paying homage to that connection that power that has everything under control. You know, it's one of those things that you can lean into, even if the words that I'm using to describe something that's so beyond words, what it means for me in my life is just having absolute faith and hope that no matter what's going on externally, whatever external inputs or situations that are coming up in my life, that only my mind wants to create a problem out of it. That it's all divinely guided, that it's all connected, and that we all play such a major role in the manifestation, the development of the evolution of consciousness and the evolution of being. So that's my all over the place response to another very loaded question. And I'm sure that if you gave me a little bit of more time to just really sit with that one, I could probably describe it a little bit better. But that's how I see the Creator. It's not so much tied to dogmatic beliefs or any religion. It's, I was raised Catholic. And I was raised to believe, not so much indoctrinated to believe, but raised to believe in an environment of church that if you didn't believe this thing, you were going to hell, and if you did, you were going to heaven. And that was kind of like when you put two magnets together and they're the opposite sides, they repel you away. That just never resonated with me until I found Eastern ideology when I was just 23, 24 years old. And this whole idea of self-realization, this idea that we carry a spark of the Creator inside of us, and that we can access it through meditation, through silence, and through stillness, and through mindfulness, and that we all have that, and that if you peel back all the dogma and all ideology around a religion, what's left is love, and love is God.
Wow, what a great story! Like I'm just picking up on some of the breadcrumbs, right? So your parents were brought up in that way. You were brought up in that way, right? You have this experience of God, what it is for you, and you find your way through experimenting with different things, and then you have this experience where you build yourself up and everything is like pulled out like a rug, boom, and then you land, but it reminds you of love, and then you find yourself in a modality which is giving people back their life through breath, which then allows all of those things that you've been learning, teaching, including going this way and that way, into this one place where you can just center yourself and give something of tremendous value to people. Wow, it's a phenomenal story, man. I get the pieces, and there are many pieces that I haven't got to, but I get those pieces, So we're about to move on, but then it just drops in my head, so it means we're not going to move on at all. All right. So your beautiful partner's here, your wife, and I just keep seeing it out in my peripheral. Yeah. So what's special about her for you?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I gotta tell the story now. I have to tell it. So I was engaged to be married before I left San Diego, and with a lovely woman that wanted a house and white picket fence and 2.5 kids and a dog, and that just wasn't me. And so it was she wanted to take our life in a direction that just didn't resonate with me to my core. And as a result, instead of just being honest and transparent in the relationship and ending it and going our separate ways, I let it drag on, and I wasn't faithful, and I got myself into some hot water in the relationship, and the relationship just ended pretty badly. And I just thought I was an asshole, to be honest. I was evaluating the situation. I was unfaithful and not dishonest and all these things, and I was just very judgmental of myself. And I convinced myself I was polyamorous, basically. I convinced myself I'm just going to have many girlfriends, and this isn't going to be a problem. This is a phase that I went through. Or I'm just going to be in open relationships my whole life, and that's going to be okay too. I just wasn't into the idea of monogamy. I said, I just don't see that many people making it work. It's definitely not going to work for me. That's a story that I came to Bali with. This is what I asked myself: what percentage of relationships are actually happy and they make it until they're 90 and 100 years old? And so I came very convinced that story was the truth for me. And so when Anna and I met, I was just full transparency mode. I said, look, I don't want to break your heart. I have a history of being not faithful in relationships. I don't think I'm into monogamy. I think I'm into open relationships and polyamory. And she's like, well, that's fine because I don't want anything from you. You know, it was like we were in that place where we were trying to kind of explore and see what our relationship meant, and just being open to just enjoy each other's presence and have a good time, basically. And okay, wow, do I really want to share this story to all these people? Okay, I'm gonna share it. So I was setting up Akasha. For anybody that knows Akasha and Ubud, I was the project manager for the build of that project. And before it was open, there's this amazing villa called Villa Akasha right next door. And I was throwing really amazing parties there, like ecstatic dance parties. And a lot of people came, 200, 300 people came. And one of my friends said, hey, she's a tantra teacher. And she said, hey, I want to have like a really sexy fruit and chocolate. Like, I was like, you want to have a sex party? And she's like, no sex. But like, a lot of fruit and chocolate and touching and like having a good time. And I was like, that sounds pretty good. All right, let's do that. So I hosted in this bamboo dome that was like separated from the villa, and I set it up. I put like sheets on everything. I had all this chocolate and all this fruit, and it's gonna be this sexy party. And it was my first time taking Anna out together, where we were like together and we were like, you know, with each other, and we wanted to kind of see how this went. And the party got on, and it started getting pretty hot and steamy and sexy, and we were just both kind of like free flow, and I was kissing everybody in the room, and just a lot of just really no sex, but it was pretty intimate. And we were there having that experience together, and I was like, oh man, this is epic. Like, I got my girl here, and then I'm able to do whatever I want. It's like I created this is my real come to Jesus moment. This is the best thing that ever happened to me. And it was really, I was on top of the world. And so all I realized, next thing I knew, like, party was going on, Anna was gone. And I found out later she came into the room, and it was like me on the bed with 3 women and chocolate, and she wasn't part of it, and she got really triggered. And she messaged me later that night, and I read it, and it just shocked me to my core what she wrote. She said, I just want you to know that what you did tonight really triggered me, and I just wanted to thank you for showing me my jealousy, so that because I know that it's something that I need to work on for myself, and no matter what happens, I just want you to know that I love you. And I was like, oh God. It was like, still goosebumps to this day. My heart dropped, and I'm like, this is the woman for me. Not because she's going to let me do whatever I want, but from that moment on, I didn't give a shit about any other woman. She showed me in that moment that she could have that experience and not project a single ounce of it at me and still love me through it. It reframed my whole idea of love. And I had somebody before this ask me a very mind-opening question. She said, what if you could find a woman that makes you feel more free? Because I was associating being in a monogamous relationship, with a lack of freedom, the end of my freedom. And so when she asked me that question, I was like, whoa, is that even possible? And Anna delivered me that moment. And nearly 5 years later, we have 2.5-year-old child and a really amazing, healthy, harmonious relationship. And as far as I'm concerned, a beacon for what's possible with love.
I want to do that. Wow. Now,
I can't believe I just shared that with all these lights. Oh God, I'm vulnerable.
For those of you watching, right, no SpeakuP Monday is the same. There's no formula. There's no like, we do this, we do this, we do this. So each SpeakuP Monday has its own energy. And what's created, we just go to that. So I have no idea or no clue that I was going to ask you some of those questions that I asked, but we just go there, right? And that's just, so no SpeakuP Monday is the same. Just in case you're going to be on the show next week and it's like, I can't do that. I got too many skeletons in the wardrobe to share. I can't do that. I say, no, Robbie, I'm not coming on the show. Right? So, but this is the last question. Promise on this topic. I promise.
Here
Which
we
means
go.
I don't promise anything. Do you love yourself now?
I deeply love myself now. Yeah, I deeply love myself now. I've forgiven myself for all the shame and all the guilt and everything else. And yeah, I'm human. I have my moments of weakness. I have the fear kicks in, the self-doubt kicks in, the stress and the anxiety kick in. I'm not immune to all that stuff. I just have, the breathwork gives me the tools to navigate it. And so I'm not a victim to my circumstances anymore. But yeah, all that, Anna was my medicine in that situation.
Love it. And for those people watching now, right, so there's one gentleman that we had a chat before talking about breath work. So if there were like a couple of steps, whatever comes up for you, right, you know, of how to come to self-love. Because to me, I think that's essential, because at the end of the day, I don't want to direct this too much, but what I find is that if you can really accept yourself, you can accept anyone. You know, like really. And the fact that you can't accept the way that someone else feels has got nothing to do with them. It's got what it triggers in you. Yeah. Right? But when you're able to accept these things, not ignore them, but actually accept them, point them out and accept them, then things change. So I'll give you an example. So I grew up in children's homes for 18 years in London, from 6 months to 18 years. There was racism, sexism, classism, all the isms we experienced. I experienced racism in a massively brutal attack, which I'll go into maybe some other time. It's in my book. But anyway, but here's the thing. The minute that I accepted the racist within me, I stopped experiencing racism. So does that mean that racism does not exist? No, it does not. Racism does exist. But I personally haven't experienced it for 20 years at the minimum. 20 years. And that's because the thing within me that was triggered, I've healed that thing. Yeah. Right? So I don't experience it anymore. It doesn't touch me. It doesn't stick to me. Let's put it that way. It doesn't stick to me. So for you, if someone's saying, well, how do I find my way to self-love? What would you say?
Oh, gosh. That's a really good question. How do I find my way to self-love? I feel like from the easiest way, oh gosh, I don't think there is such. This is one of those things where it's as easy or as complicated as you decide to make it. That's number one. It can be a fast track to healing and reconciliation of your past, or it can be a long road that some people can be on their deathbed and not love themselves. And I feel like self-love starts with self-forgiveness. You know, to really take stock of the things that you've done in your life and let it be okay. We're really good we're pros at creating stories about what we are and labels of and identities of what we are based on what we've done. And that's a game of the mind. You know, that's absolutely 100,000% a game of the mind. And all these complexes, and part of the reason why Vipassana meditation is one of my things is because this lack of self-love, these complexes, this self-doubt, these fears, these childhood traumas, all these things, they exist within our body somewhere. All these things, they're housed within our body somewhere. So the more that we can get silent, get quiet, be mindful, meditate, and just allow our body to release these things, the closer and closer we can get to a state of self-love. And I feel like, look, man, we're humans. We make mistakes. Some people have made terrible mistakes. But you look at some of these stories of like men that are in prison that have brutally raped and murdered children or women, and the parents coming in and forgiving those inmates and making peace with it. That is what's possible in this world when it comes to forgiveness. And I feel like there's this amazing book called The Holographic Universe, and it was a massive game changer for me. And they talk about in this book, this chapter, it's called Life Between Life, right? And it's a story worth sharing. I shared the story with someone. It rocked her through her core, so I feel it's coming up for me, so might as well share it. This story is about this scientific researcher who was taking people into really deep states of hypnosis, right? And she, into previous lives, actually, that deep into hypnosis. I don't know what you think about reincarnation or whatever else, but when people are in that state of deep hypnosis, you can take them far beyond what they've experienced in this lifetime. And they sharing things about what happened, not consciously. They come out of it and they have to watch the video back to find out what they said, but actually audibly delivering story. And so what this researcher found was that he could actually get people into the state of hypnosis where they were in between lives. Right? And they could talk about what they were experiencing in between lives. And one woman, what came through her was that she coordinated a brutal rape situation with another soul in between that she had to experience in this lifetime. It was they got together, they had a conversation, and they said, okay, for your karma, you're going to do this. For my karma, I'm going to do this. At the soul level, we know what's going on, but we have to forget all this stuff. But we're creating this because we need to go through this situation in order to give us some experience to help us heal this karma or create whatever in this lifetime. And she, to that point, the brutal rape defined her. And after watching this, she realized that at some level, this was all by design. And you can read this chapter. You can read about this. This isn't just a singular account. This is many different accounts. So if you think about it at that level, all this shit that we've done to ourselves and to each other, we designed before we came here at some level. We needed to have that happen. Now, if that's not a solid foundation to allow yourself to forgive yourself and find love, I don't know what is.
Far out. It's a great answer, man. Like, that's a great answer. Like, what I mean by great answer is that I think there's a lot of people that will watch this or hear now who will get comfort from that.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole thing is really about, just sharing and passing things on that can inspire others to take action.
I shared this, the woman who I told this story to, when I was sharing it with her, I didn't know that her younger sister was brutally raped and murdered. And as I'm sharing the story, I see that she's just spilling tears. And up to that point, this was one of the defining moments of her character in her life. And that story gave her peace that there was some higher force that was happening as a result of that. So to your point, the weaving of our stories, it's more, there's no such thing as a chance encounter. I don't believe it. I believe that when we come into this world, we make deals with our contacts that can last a lifetime. They can last 20 years, 5 years, 1 year, or a cup of coffee. But they all weave together on some level. And we're only going to understand in hindsight how they all connect. Maybe. Or we can have the awareness that they're connecting right now. And we can drop into a conversation and go deep because we know that you decided to be in that chair. I decided to be in this one. And all these beautiful people decided to be in theirs. And we're all designed to share this moment together. Like, sit with that. And it changes everything. Aho.
Ooh. So where do we go from here? So it's like I feel like taking a breath. That's, pardon the pun.
We could do that. Everybody want to take a breath?
Yeah.
All right. Want to do a little like calming practice?
Let's do this. Yeah.
All right, so this technique is designed to trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the side of the autonomic nervous system that tells your body to rest, relax, and digest. So if you're having trouble sleeping or you have issues with digestion, you can do this one. This one is going to be in through the nose for 4 seconds. And it's going to be out through the mouth for 8 seconds. So anytime you double your exhale from your inhale, you're triggering your parasympathetic nervous system. So you can do 3, 6, 4, 8, 5, 10, 10, 20, but now you're starting to get, it might be kind of challenging to breathe out for 20 seconds for people that are new to breathwork. So for this one, we're going to do 4, 8. But when we're going to breathe in and breathe out, what you want to do is you want to tickle the back of your throat with your breath. And I'm going to show you what it sounds like. And I might sound like Darth Vader a little bit, but it's going to sound like this. But you want to make that same sound through your nose. Just try it real quick. Try to breathe in and tickle the back of your throat. It's your vagus nerve back there. It tells your body to calm down and relax. Everybody got it? All right. So on my count, we're going to go in for 4, out for 8, and we're just going to do 2 quick rounds of it. Everybody ready? Okay. In 3, 2, 1, and in 1, 2, 3, 4, and out 8. Slowly. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and in 1, 2, 3, 4, and out 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax and breathe normally. So if you're stressed or anxious or in your head and you just need to calm down or you need to sleep, find a quiet spot or just wherever you at. I do this when I'm driving around on my motorbike. It's safe because you're not doing breath holds and that kind of thing. It will return you back to equilibrium and bring you back into balance.
That's super cool. So we've got 2 things then. So we've got that one, which brings your energy up, and do that one again. So
that's the 25 deep belly breaths. Yeah, a good technique for that one is called the 10-20-30. You do 10, you hold your breath for 10. You do 20, you hold your breath for 20, and then you do 30, and you hold your breath for as long as you can. And that's like shock to the system, whatever funk you got going on, whatever tough conversation that you just had, whatever just triggered you, like gone at the end of that 2-minute sequence.
Got it. So then so do 20 again?
In for 10, hold at the top for 10. And then 20, and then hold your breath for 20, and then 30, and hold your breath for 30. It's called the panic button. There's another good word.
So that brings you up. And then the one we just did is that when you breathe out for longer than you breathe in, it triggers that part of the parasympathetic, and it just
brings you down.
Yeah. Two great ones. It's funny, right? In my mind, it's like, what a great episode this is, right? Because you're getting practical, but none of this was planned. I just want to keep on saying that. It's just like it just comes up. I think what a great way to do it. So let's move on, right? So now what we're talking about, so the Karma House, YogiLab. So what are these things? How do they come about? And what's behind them? What's driving them?
Man, you're just full of good questions. Who's heard of Karma House in the room? Anybody heard of Karma House? No Ubudians in here? All right, so 2 years ago, Aaron, my business partner who you had on this show, he came to me and he asked me if I wanted to be his business partner in this concept called Karma House. And it's interesting, the story that led up to this, because it came to him in a Vipassana meditation through some mystical cosmic experience that I needed to be his business partner. And I know it sounds very fluffy and woo-woo, but that's exactly what happened. And he comes back from this Vipassana and he calls me up. And we had a nice connection. When I used to throw parties, he was like my number one customer. And he always brought really pretty girls, and this was before Anna. And we just had a really nice bond, and we did an authentic relating workshop together, and we really dropped in deep, and we've just been like boys, best friends ever since. And he's like, hey man, we need to talk. Like, we got, like, with an excited kind of tone, like, let me take you to dinner. And I was pretty wrapped up in project at the time, so I wasn't really that open to taking on something new, but I kind of sensed something was coming. And so we went and we met and we had this dinner, and it was basically, hey, I had this woo-woo cosmic experience with you in a meditation, and I just knew that I wanted you to be my partner, and here's what's going on with Karma House, and it's going to help the community, and we're going to do all this charity work and everything else. And I was like, it just sounded so good. But I had a decent gig at that time. I was helping somebody else build their project who was paying pretty well, and I was just not really that open for it at the time. I've told this story a lot of times because it's kind of ridiculous how it goes. But I go home that night, I talked to Anna about it, and I was like, man, it sounds really good, but now it's just not the right timing. So I was thinking about what I was going to say to Aaron. I was like, okay, what I'm going to say is that, I really appreciate the offer, and I want to do something together at some point, but now's not a good time. So let's just like keep me posted with how it develops, and we can talk down the track. And I go to send the voice now, and what came out was, let's fucking make some magic together, man. I was nervous. I was like, whoa, that's exactly not what I meant to say at all. It's in fact, it's the exact opposite of what I wanted to say, but something in me wanted to do that, and so I thought it was that awkward moment where you're like, it sends, and then there's like 1 check mark, and then 2, but you're not sure if they listened to it already, and like I could delete it and then re-record it, but I was like, you know what? This is meant to be because of that, and so that's how it started with Karma House, and
so what is Karma House? What is Karma House?
Karma House, it challenges the stigma that people with tattoos are bad, terrible people that commit crimes and do bad things and end up in prison, which people in prison, I guess, do have tattoos and whatever. But it's a vehicle for helping the community through the administering conscious tattoos. So essentially, like we created a bit of ceremony. Like we created an environment where people could come and get a meaningful piece of ink that really meant something to themselves, and we'd guide them on a journey with breathwork. That was kind of the beginning of my breathwork. I'd guide people on a breathwork. We'd do a little smudging, set some intentions, do some releasing, give the tattoo a story, like send that energy into the ink, and so that a story lived on them as opposed to just ink on the body. We made it meaningful. But what really made it meaningful was that it was really all about helping the community that takes such good care and provided us such amazing opportunities here in Bali. So in the year that we were in business, we raised nearly $60,000 for various charities. When the earthquake happened in Lombok, we did a big charity project to purchase water filtration systems out there. When the volcano was going off here, we did a big charity project to help people at Karangasam. And then the most notable project is my favorite story to share, and we called it Happy Mattress. And essentially what we found was that there's many children that live in Bali, and they live on dirt floors with cardboard with no pillows and no blankets. And when we saw that, it kind of just shocked us. We were just kind of under the impression that, there's a lot of tourists, there's a lot of money in the economy here, and the Balinese, even if they're a little bit poor, they still have pretty basic living conditions. But the reality is, if you go beyond Canggu and you go beyond Ubud and you go beyond Uluwatu, where all the Westerners are hanging out, that's not the case. And there's some pretty challenged parts of the island. And so our goal was, we wanted to raise 100 beds for 100 kids in 100 days, and deliver the mattresses, and like make some really good content to inspire people, not just our tattoo customers, but to inspire people to make donations. And when we launched it, it just went viral, and we raised over 100 beds in the first 10 days. And we ended up with nearly 200 beds and thousands of dollars in donations. And it gave us the opportunity to put our money where our mouth was, and really actually legitimately create not just a corporate good checkbox, but like a real for the community benefit social impact project. And so it was it's an amazing creation. I got to be in an environment where people were getting amazing tattoos all day, but we were also helping the community and helping the neighborhood, doing really good things. And we had a little cafe and a yoga studio upstairs, so we were just doing a lot of really cool high vibe stuff with Karma House. And Karma House is ultimately what led to YogiLab. Karma House what led to YogiLab.
And YogiLab is dissimilar from Karma House, or runs in the same vein, or?
Well, the funny thing about YogiLab is we were launching Karma House when Dave propositioned us to create YogiLab, and we were like, and it was a classic Balinese construction chaos of a build project, leaks everywhere, all sorts of stuff messed up. And so we were just not in the headspace. We had no bandwidth to take on any other project. And Dave, God bless him, he's like, it's not even going to be a lot of work. It's like everything's just going to take care of itself. And maybe this is just coming through my filter. But he said, look, we're going to teach people how to use modalities like meditation and breathwork and yoga to live more powerful lives. And we're going to be the guinea pigs of that experiment. So we're going to actually do the practices, and then we're going to use them, and we're going to help change the world. And Dave is like a meditation master, has done so many vipassanas, and he's just got so much. He went from rags to riches using meditation as the skill to get him there. And he manifested the Asthana in Uluwatu. And he's provided a lot of people with, we do free online Vipassana meditations every month to 15,000 applicants that apply every month, giving away meditation to help them find a way out of suffering. And so that's our dharma for this project. But really the essence of the project is teaching people how to use these skills, these ancient skills, in order to be able to create more powerful versions of themselves, get out of the rat race that is here, get into the body and the heart that is here, live from that space, and use that energy to impact their own lives and their communities and eventually the world.
Mamma mia.
Amen.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Love it. So now we're going to go to you, studio audience. So if anyone here has any questions, Itchy, Bella, are we there with the other microphone? Have we taken any pictures, by the way, as well? Just double checking someone's taking pictures. So if you have a question, put your hand up. We'll get this microphone to you. And remember, with these microphones, so they work really well when they're directional. So when you put it not on your mouth, but towards that direction, as opposed to like that. It doesn't really work so well. So it works like this. So, Marty J, you're up.
Hello. Firstly, thank you so much. I mean, just hearing the whole story and sharing here with us is it's beautiful, and honestly, really connected with a lot of what you've said. I want to bring it to the breathwork because it's something that I've recently delved into, and I didn't realize how powerful it was. I would say I'm a novice at best. I've only a handful of times, but I realized how powerful it is. In terms of your journey, what you said, you started with a Karma House, or where did you begin, and how did you find it? How was your journey in that sense? Yeah.
Breathwork.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess it all began. I saw a Wim Hof video on YouTube. That was the original intrigue, but that wasn't really what started my journey. When I watched this Wim Hof video, there was a breath hold sequence at the end of it, and I went from being able to hold my breath for a minute to over 4 minutes on one single breathing session, and that was kind of the holy shit, what's going on inside my body moment. So that was the original seed. But what really kind of knocked me on my ass was. When we were starting YogiLab, we got invited to do a breathwork journey. We just did a minute. Imagine what happens after an hour of that, right? You probably know if you've done some journeys. Like what I just trained you guys was the tip of the tip, as we were talking about before, of the iceberg. And so we got invited to do a breathwork journey, a 60 or 90 minute breathwork journey. And a friend of ours who was coming out to train us on some physical fitness stuff, he showed up. And he was going through a really tough time in his life. And this is a guy very well held together. He's an ex-bodybuilder, nutritionist, naturopath, NLP practitioner. The guy had all the certificates and accolades, and just very connected, very wise, grounded dude, but going through a really tough time in his life. And he was one of those really dark night of the soul kind of times for him. He had multiple friends and family members coming down with terminal cancer, and he was having trouble sleeping, and so he was 5 or 6 nights a week not getting any sleep at all. So one night a week he was just powering down a bunch of Ambien just to sleep, to save his sanity. And so on the verge of nervous system completely shot, basically, and still showed up and still doing his best to hold it all together, but clearly in a really tough spot. And we did this breathwork journey, and there must have been 10 of us in the circle. I was lucky enough to be laying on the ground right next to him, and so halfway through, as he's having some kind of a mini exorcism, crying and laughing and shaking and doing all this. And I thought I was having a powerful experience, but this guy was having he is going places. And it finished, and there's a little sharing circle and whatever else, and I got my eyes on him wondering what he's going to share. And he's like, out of all the shit that I've ever done in my life, all the ayahuasca, all the combo, all the plant medicines, all the LSD, all that, he had tried everything and he'd done everything, healthy and not healthy. He said, I had never had an experience as powerful as that in my life. And it was an hour. And the next day we saw him, and it was like new men. And he said, you know what? Last night I slept for the first time in months like a baby, no sleeping pills. And I was like, I'm in. That was like, okay, I got to figure this out. Because what's the metric with how this usually works, right? You have stress, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have chronic inflammation, you have all of these things. And we're trained to go see the doctor, get on the drugs, find the psychiatrist, do all these things. Then the drugs have side effects, and you got to get more drugs for those drugs. And then those drugs have more side effects. And then it's just like round and round you go. Or you could figure out how to breathe healthy and fix all of it. And so I'm shocked that they're like every other human being is into Breathworker, because I've seen the power of the magic. Like, I hope this will be a successful talk and communication journey that we went on today. If there's just one single person in the room that's like, holy shit, I got to give this Breathwork thing a shot. And even if there's not, I'm like super happy to be here. It was an amazing conversation, my brother. But it's that powerful. So if I will gladly give my contact details or my Instagram to anybody in the room that wants to know where to start the journey if they're inspired, for sure, 100%.
Does anyone have any other questions? Just behind you, Mali. Yeah.
Thank you so much for such an inspiring talk. I wanted to find out a little more about how do you guys pick the organizations that you work with in terms of charity, and if you thought about contributing into education of the community, because in order to change the world, I've been researching on it for a year here, and it's been really hard, you know, especially the part of communicating with organizations and all this work permits and getting locals involved in, say, environmental issues and self-awareness work, which would be great. Yeah, I would like to know, like,
sure,
if you were guys thinking about working towards that direction, and if you're aware of like other charities, what they do in terms of education. For example, SOS, right? They are sponsoring education of these kids, but as the conditions they work in are so off, like they literally have no idea on which area they would like to develop in. That's a big problem. So what you do to grown-ups would be great to implement into, you know, young generation lives. So coming out of this kind of environment, they would have an idea about what they're good in, where would they like to, what area would they like to be developed in, so they could pick their path right. This is one of the I hope you got the question. It was kind of long, but you understand, right?
I get it.
Thank you.
Good question. So there's two parts to that. The best example, they found us. That's the short answer to that question. Is we had to evaluate as stuff was coming in if it was actually going to make a difference or if it was just us looking like we were making a difference. So we were always very hypercritical of what we decided to contribute to. Karma House is actually closed right now, but it's irrelevant because we're doing the same with YogiLab. But the best example that I saw of real sustainable impact for the projects that we supported was actually Munti Gunung community. And you guys, some people in the room may be familiar. They sell their little salts and cashews and little treats. The short version of the long story is there's a guy named Daniel Elber, I think is his name, and he followed the poor women that were hanging out in front of Bali Buddha in Ubud home one time, and he found that they lived in a very isolated part of the island up near Kintamani, and they were essentially like 95% of them didn't have health care, so they were having their babies at home, massive infant mortality rate. They were trekking 5 hours a day just to get water, and nobody cared, and they were just like the lost, forgotten culture of Bali. And essentially over the course of like 9 or 10 years, he brought in money from Switzerland, and he taught them how to create sustainable economy for themselves. Fast forward 10 years, they have all of their own water using water capture systems. They have everybody in the village, all 5,000 people across many villages have healthcare. Their infant mortality rate has dropped down to 0, and they've created sustainable business that are they taught them how to fish as opposed to giving them a fish type situation. I don't know how they're doing now because there isn't tourists coming to Bali, and they sustain themselves based on tourism, but that's the closest model to anything that I've seen where you can see that you can eradicate extreme poverty with this system, with this model, and it's called Munti Gunung, Munti Gunung. And so that's really a big one that gives me hope that you could literally do this anywhere in the world. In Bali, up near Kintamani. You can go there. The poor women are now tour guides, and they like guide people through their little sustainable business projects, and you can go on a trek and see what their operation looks like and check it out for yourself. It's beautiful. But to touch on the kids side, what we're working like I'm a parent. I believe wholeheartedly that if you can get through to the kids, you change the world the fastest. And the big project that we're working on now is getting meditation into preschools. So all the preschools starting in 2022, they're going to be required to go through a program. It's out of Italy, but it's based on the Montessori program. But it's Montessori for underprivileged children that don't have a lot of money. And so we're now connected with the Vipassana meditation into the woman that's spearheading this initiative, where all the preschools on the entire island are going to be required to do this program next year.
Governmental?
It's through the Banjars, but supported by the government.
You mean like a community leaders as well?
Yeah, it has all the community through the brilliance of one woman. It's supported island-wide, even in Indonesia, not just in Bali. There was 14 teachers that were hand-selected to go to Italy to train on this program. One of them is here in Bali. The way that we got connected was one of her friends came and sat a Vipassana meditation with us at the Astana and had such a powerful, life-changing experience that she said she wants to get it into the children. We had 1 or 2 conversations, and now we're looking to teach meditation to preschoolers.
And just to add to that, great question. It's opened up a lot. So there's three things that come into mind. One is a guy called I can never pronounce his name. Taufik, Indonesian. His foundation, DIY Foundation. Academy. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. There you go. And so Y is incredible. He's been on Speak Up Monday before, about 10 episodes ago, and he is one of the most brilliant 28-year-olds I've ever met. Like, this guy is ridiculous. He is one of the most complete 28, not even the age, one of the most complete people that I've ever met. This guy, at the fundamental source of him, is a person who really wants the best for the next generation of Indonesians coming up in every way. And this guy is creating an ecosystem that embraces all of this to create and nurture some of the greatest, best minds in Indonesia, of which will become the future of Indonesia. This guy, I'm going to say it on camera, will be a future leader in Indonesia, no doubt in my mind. Incredible. And one of his foundations is that one, the DIY Academy. He's definitely one. There's another guy called David from the IG Center. Now, the IG Center is Gunung Salak, which is here not far from the prison, actually. Gunung Salak, IG Center, David. They are going into Kintamani, actually. I think it's Kintamani, West Java, yeah. And they're about to set up another program there. And the way that they're doing it is it's like a 15-year program just to get started. And they're going into some of these villages, which are the poorest villages, some of the poorest villages in Indonesia. And they're basically creating a school. But that school is just the beginning. It is a way to powerfully impact the local communities to adopt, not in all cases, but what's relevant for that community, the most latest education and tools to enable them to grow and to provide for themselves. So we're not talking about I take a tree and I create a straw basket, which is great, which I then sell to tourists. Great. What we're talking about is things like coding, things like marketing, things like some modern tools which can actually help to take people forward, and all the spaces in between. So if we go from that all the way to that, so that's IG Center, David, incredible guy. And the last one, a friend called Ryan Kalish. He's a former pro baseball player.
No, I don't have trust of this guy. I think
Okay.
he's a psychiatrist.
All right. Okay.
Let's
all
stick
right.
with the first one then.
All right. We'll stick. All right.
No faith, and also like it's so many questions.
Yeah.
And he wants to build a school, put his money into the build
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about that afterwards. But I've met the teacher who's doing the school, right? She is incredible. By herself, a school of 60 kids, 60 in our home. This woman is incredible. Like, if you met her, you would feel like I'm getting teary just talking about her. Like, I only met her once. She is amazing. What a human being. So if it takes someone like that to invest the capital that's needed for this woman to really fly and to really expand her care and her love for her community, it doesn't matter who it is really at the end of the day, but it just matters that it happens. So these are the three ones, and obviously the last one is probably a no, but the first two are incredible people, incredible organizations. Great question.
I think just to dovetail, just to put a cap on that one, like, there's a lot of people that are on the island doing amazing things, and it's to find them and align with them is a lot easier than starting something from scratch. And usually the Banjars, yeah, I know, I get it. Yeah. Usually the Banjars and the local people, the local village leaders and things like that, like, you can get into discussions and you can find out in the underbelly of what they're trying to do to make a difference and make a change on the island. There's so much more happening than what we see on the surface. I'm happy to have a conversation and point you in the right direction to some people that are just really ace.
Yeah, I wonder how many of them that you mentioned are government supported. That's been a huge problem. That's what I've researching on and wondering why.
Yeah.
Also, this Banjar/community leaders system is very off, because what I see is the community leaders telling me, I implemented this within my community. I don't care about this Banjar or whatever.
Yeah.
This guy who's over all of them, who gave permission to this lady to run this event that is she thinks beneficial. I told her to, because she has a permission from, I don't know, the president of the earth, but it's my community, so it's not allowed here.
Why don't we connect on WhatsApp? And I understand the bureaucracy of it is a little bit complex, but let's connect on WhatsApp. We can have a conversation about it.
And you got some solid leads, which is really good. So does anyone else have a question? And then if not, after that, we'll probably wrap it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we'll make this one the last question.
And thank you so much for a brilliant interview. It was very, very inspiring. And just to kind of come back to your journey with breathwork, how would you say it is important to have awareness of your breath throughout the day, not just during that hour of breathwork, but generally, how would you carry your breath and your awareness throughout the day, and whether that had any impact on your daily life?
You couldn't have asked a better question to close this out. That's it. That's on. All the questions were great, but that's the best question you could have asked. I'm doing breathwork right now. Yeah. So like, the problem with people with breathing is that we've been trained to breathe very fast and very shallow. So the average person, the average human, takes 12 to 16 breaths per minute, full cycle breaths. When I breath timed myself, I was breathing 20 times. If you're 16 or above, you're telling your body, you're telling your nervous system to be in a constant state of stress or anxiety. And so most people, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, you can revolutionize how you feel. It's called the breath test. So when you get home, time yourself. Don't manipulate the speed of your breath, but just count how many times you breathe per minute. And if you breathe 16 or more times, then you have all of a sudden an instant opportunity to shift that and to slow your breathing down. So essentially the best thing that you can do, like if you watch a baby breathing, and I can proof this because I did this with my son just a few days ago, you see that they breathe deep into their belly. You can watch their belly rise and fall. You can actually, on my Instagram right now, if you watch my stories, you can see me and my 2-year-old doing breath work together, because now he gets it. He does it by himself. I'm like, Ami, what are you doing? Are you doing breath work? It's like, whoa, I love it. So if you can be consciously aware, no matter where you are, like the best system for integrating breathwork in your life is 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes sometime during the day, and 5 minutes before you go to bed. However, breath awareness and slowing down your breath all the time is the way to go, because the more you do it, the more you'll be addicted to the idea of just like doing it so often that you manipulate your rate of breathing in your everyday life. So essentially the best practice that you could do is 5 seconds in to your belly, like literally, like no one really lets their belly move when they're breathing. So 5 seconds in through the nose and 5 seconds out either through the nose or the mouth, but always in through the nose. And the more you do that, the more you'll realize that your stress and any anxiety that you have, or any kind of nervous twitch or any kind of panic or whatever else might be happening through the day, is just so much less likely to be a problem. So that now, because I do this so often, there's probably, if I were to count, 60 or 70 times throughout the day where I'll come to breath awareness and I'll just be slowing my breath down. Anytime I'm out driving on my motorbike, it's a good excuse to just being breathwork, retraining yourself to breathe into your belly. Because just to put a cap, and I realize I'm talking really long, the ancients believed that the faster you breathe, the faster your life cycle. So if you look at mice, for example, they breathe 150 breaths per minute, they live 2 years. Dogs, 50 breaths per minute, like 15 years. Humans, 12 to 16 or 20 breaths per minute, 60 to 80 years. And then look at a turtle, right? 3 to 4 breaths per minute, 200 to 400 years. So I'm not guaranteeing you that if you consciously breathe for 2 to 4 times per minute that you're gonna be a yogi and live 300 years, but maybe you will. But I'm telling you, the long-term health repercussions of doing that, scientifically proven, will be vastly transformative.
Wow. It's phenomenal. So thank you so much, brother. So what we're going to do now, so in about a minute or so, you're going to have what we call the closing. So the closing is basically anything that you feel drawn to saying, maybe something you've said already, or maybe something that you're thinking like, oh, I'd love to say that. And then you get a chance to close it out. And then after that, I'm gonna give you a big hug. And then we'll go on, right? So for those of you watching now, I just wanna thank everybody here, the studio audience. Thank you to you. Thank you to you. Most appreciated. Remember, guys, so every Monday, this is number 91. Right, we do it every week, so it's almost been 2 years, as you said to me before, without stopping, right? No gaps or breaks. So, but it comes through sharing, right? So if you've been impacted by this, we have a list here, a WhatsApp group, as well as there's also a Facebook group, which is called SpeakuP Monday group. If you want to join that, you can. Otherwise, you've got a WhatsApp list. Just see me afterwards, and I can put you onto it. We have some more phenomenal people coming up, and it's from all different areas. And remember, the two things that underpin everything that we do is people inspire people. So people inspire people. And then Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which is unity in diversity, which is the motto of Indonesia, right? These are the two things which sum everything up. So just want to say to you, my man, thank you so much, mate. I think we had about everything in this particular segment. We had you, which is great. Thank you so much. Like, we've had everything.
Yeah.
Breathing practices, laughs, tears, like emotion shifting up and down. It's been everything. It's okay. Just hold it. It's okay, darling. Just hold there. Hold there. She's still going. Hold there. Afterwards, we'll keep on going. So I just want to thank you, brother, for your honesty. Thank you for sharing all of that. Like, we're going to watch this back, and there's going to be so much great stuff in there for everyone to take away with them and to try and experiment for themselves in a way that they can then be in the driver's seat of their life. So I really appreciate it. Much love. So much thanks.
Thank you, bro.
No problem. And I'll leave it over to you, brother. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so I'll leave you with this. Life isn't easy, right? We all have stuff that comes up. We have fear, we have doubt, we have insecurity. We have all these things that get in the way of us and feeling good. So I want everybody to just close their eyes for a moment, just in this last moment, if you can. Next time that happens to you, I want you to just remember just to breathe and to make your mission bigger than your fear. Make your mission bigger than your fear. Compliments of David Hans Barker. I can't take credit for this. And remind yourself, this is your mantra. Look how far I've come. When you feel like you're not far along enough, or you haven't accomplished enough, or you're not good enough, or you haven't made a big enough impact, just remind yourself of everything that you had to get through in your life to be alive in this moment in Bali. And to repeat the mantra, look how far I've come. Everybody say it with me on 3. 1, 2, 3. Look how far I've come. And then just breathe into that. And remember, you're epic and you fucking got this. Thank you all for having me.